Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Level Agency's Test, Learn, Grow podcast, where we believe all marketing should create value, build trust, and inspire change. I'm your host, Dale Reether, Digital Marketing Lead here at Level. In this episode, I'm joined by my good friend and colleague, TJ Bruno, B2B Team Lead here at Level. Today, we're going to talk about the new B2B buyer journey. If you're in the B2B space, I'm sure you've heard this phrase being thrown around a lot. Our goal for today is to break it down and talk about how the way B2B buyers buy has evolved, especially since the pandemic, and how B2B marketers need to be thinking differently to adapt to this change. And with that, I'm happy to welcome in TJ. TJ, what's up? Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Dale. Thanks for having me. Excited to join again. It's been a while since I've been on the Test, Learn, Grow podcast. So excited to talk about B2B buying journey and all the fun stuff that comes along with it.
Yeah, man, it's good to have you back. And TJ and I worked together for a long time. And I know this is a topic that we've bridged together a lot of times. So I'm excited to dig into it with you again today and share some of those insights with anybody who cares to listen. So let's start with the basics. I think, this is a hot topic that gets thrown around a lot on LinkedIn. You're going to see a lot of posts of people saying the B2B buying journey has changed, but it's like, what does that actually mean? In your mind, TJ, how has this shift happened? What does it really mean whenever people say that the B2B buying journey has now changed?
Yeah, I think there's two big components to this. One, it's about the journey not being linear, and I'll talk about that in a second. And two, it's about the journey being more self-service, the user being able to navigate through a client's website and find what they want and find what they're looking for. So let's kind of talk about each of these, Dale, and I know you got some opinions on this as well. So first and foremost, the journey not being linear. A lot of times you'll see from a bunch of agencies and other folks, they'll present this inverted marketing pyramid of awareness, consideration, down to decision. And they have strict tactics for each one of these that we're going to force the user through this journey all the way down to buying our product, where we know that's really not the case. Most of the market for whatever product you're selling, whatever service you're selling, isn't ready to buy or looking to buy. So what we need to do is make sure we have evergreen content that touches on all different aspects of the buying journey. So if someone becomes aware of your product, starts doing a little bit of research, your signals internally might start telling you like, oh, this person is getting ready to buy. When in reality, they're just doing some research. They know their software might be up for renewal at the end of the year. So they're starting research now, but they're not ready to buy. So we want to make sure we're showing them different pieces of content that'll help them ultimately make their decision in the future, but also make your company's name sticky with them. They'll recall, X, Y, and Z company whenever they are in the phase ready to pull the trigger and buy.
Yeah, so just real quick on that, I think the point you make around needing to be present in all phases of the customer journey. So from people that are slightly aware of you, like traditional marketing funnel stuff, right? But the key to the flywheel is people pop in and out of those constantly. And the stat that we always use is, I think it's 2 to 3% of your total addressable market is actually in market to buy something at that moment in time. So if you're not present across all of those different stages continuously, you're missing an opportunity to, one, move people throughout those different stages and deliver the right content so they could potentially move to a buying decision. Two, if you're not present within that buying decision stage, you're missing out on the 2 to 3% that might be in market for what you're selling right now. So I just want to emphasize the importance of being active in all those and thinking about it as that continuous loop that you describe.
%. So with that, let's talk a little bit about the B2B buying journey being a self-service platform, if you will, at this point in time. So what we're seeing more and more is that users want to do research on their own. Something that I've said a lot during biz dev pitches, and Dale, I've heard you say it before, asking someone to schedule a demo with you during their first interaction with your company is like asking someone to marry you on the first date. That's not going to happen, right? And that's a bad experience for the user when they don't know a lot about your platform, your service, what you're trying to do. You're trying to lock them into a 60-minute demo. What we want to see companies do, and what we try and push our clients to, is what are those pain points? What are those things that you know your potential customers are looking for? And how can we make those easily accessible on the website? And it's more than just product features, right? It's going deeper into, some client testimonials, some use cases in specific industries. It's even talking about things like price, where in the B2B world, sometimes it's a bit taboo to even put price on your website or talk about price. But that's a big part in someone's decision, right? Is this within my budget? And do you as a sales team want to waste your time if you're selling a $10,000 SaaS platform for someone that's got a $1,000 budget and now they're jumping on a demo? You sat down with them for 60 minutes and they're like, oh no, this isn't even possible. This is way outside of my budget range. So trying to make that journey more useful, more self-service for that end user is going to make that handoff to sales much easier. Ultimately, marketing's role in B2B is to make sales easier. That's what we're trying to do. So if we could equip that user with the information they need to be confident by the time they talk to the sales team, you'll notice things like higher win rates, quicker deal velocity, things like that. You'll be actually making an impact across your organization.
I totally agree with everything you said. And I just want to go back to the point that it's more of a B2C buying experience now within B2B. That is the expectation. I think really the driving force behind that is, one, more millennial and Gen Z people are coming in to be those B2B buyers. Like the mindset is different. They grew up using computers and the internet, and everything is more digital than it ever has been. And the stat that we always point out to our clients is B2B buyers are now 70% of the way through the customer journey before ever contacting a salesperson, where in the past that was not the case. So it's super important for your marketing to be acting as that top of funnel salesperson, because quite honestly, people don't want to talk to a salesperson until they're pretty damn sure that they want to work with you, or at least they're very interested. So some of the things I heard you say just around content, and finding those pain points, and we'll get into this in a little bit, the personalization piece is really important. That's the expectation from buyers now. They expect you to know what their challenges are and their pain points, and have content that centers around that so they can do their own research on their own time without having to get on a call with somebody for an hour to explain that to them. And if you're not doing that right now through your content and your marketing, you're missing the mark, quite frankly, because if somebody goes to your website and they're not finding the information they need, they're moving on to your competitor. They're moving on to somebody else. They're not picking up the phone, calling you and say, oh, I couldn't find what I was looking for on your website, so I'm going to take 30 minutes to talk to a salesperson. It's just not the way that it's happening anymore. It's super important as us in a marketing function to recognize that and make sure that we are delivering that content in the right places at the right times in order to build awareness, drive interest, and ultimately generate leads and sales qualified opportunities for the sales team. And as TJ said, our job is to make it easier for sales. We don't want to just deliver names into a CRM. They download an ebook, and then we expect sales to call them, and all of a sudden that's going to become a sale. It's not how it works. They're not going to answer your call. They're not showing intent to actually buy something. I think the goal is to provide enough value throughout that customer journey, and then eventually have sales only focusing on people that are raising their hand, yeah, I'm ready to talk to you about this. And that causes a lot better relationship between sales and marketing too, I think, because there's not this struggle over oh, we delivered 500 leads to you, there should be sales. We need to be on the same team and recognize what types of leads are the people that are actually have a good chance to buy something, and being realistic about that. Let's go try to get more of those. And I think that comes into like a KPI conversation, but I'll stop there, TJ. I wanted to see if there was anything that you wanted to react to out of my spiel there.
I think you're spot on in terms of the way you're thinking about the buying journey. And something that really has helped me, and shameless plug here, a few years ago, I read a book called They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. Any B2B marketer or marketer in general, I think should read it. And it gets to really what you're talking about, Dale. It's giving users what they want. And it's not gating everything either. I've heard you talk about like ebooks, white papers, all of that stuff, great, powerful marketing content. Where it becomes lost is when all of that stuff is behind a giant lead form where you need first name, last name, work email, job title, revenue of your company, company name. Like, folks really just don't want to do that when they're doing research. Of course, there could be some proprietary stuff that, you want to collect some information before you hand things over. But the majority stuff, when we're talking about, case studies or some, video series that are informational about your product or service, we want people to digest that. And we're not gating everything to kind of get towards a vanity metric of leads. Ultimately, Dale, what I heard you talk about is sales and marketing having shared accountability, and again, about making sales easier. So how can marketing help facilitate that? And that's by equipping the potential buyer with as much information as humanly possible to make that handoff easier with the sales team.
Definitely. And like what I heard you say is we don't want to be driving vanity metrics in terms of leads. And I think that's another key thing that has come with the new buyer journey and how us as marketers we need to adapt to that. Like, why do we gate content? It's because the KPI is leads. And if our goal as a marketing team is to get 2,000 leads, what are we going to do? Things that get us to that number. Is that the best thing to do in terms of the user experience? Usually not. Like, gating something that somebody wants to read right now is just a barrier to them getting the information. I'm actually reading a book right now. Shout out to Six Sense, who we talked to at the Forrester B2B Summit earlier in June. But in their CMO's book, they talk about they only use a form whenever you actually have to collect information in order to give the customer what they want. So like, for example, if you are giving away a free copy of a book and you need to send it to their house, like you're collecting that information to provide value to them. Or if they want to book a demo with you, you need their email address because you need to send them the meeting invite so they can put it on their calendar. Like, I think something that I would encourage marketers to do is ask yourself, why are you collecting this information? Are you collecting it because you need to hit a lead goal? Or are you collecting it because you actually have to? And that's what the buyers and our audiences want right now. They want that genuine interaction. Everybody knows at this point that if they're filling out a form to get an ebook, you're collecting that information so you can spam them with emails. That's not value for the customer. That's just you trying to give value for yourself so you can make yourself look good in terms of KPIs that probably aren't the right KPIs to be tracking anymore in this modern world of B2B marketing.
Yeah, and just last thing on that, and then Dale, we could move on to whatever else you got on the agenda for today. But if you're struggling with your marketing and sales alignment, and if you're sitting there as a marketing team thinking, we're doing everything that we can be doing, we're delivering leads, we're delivering MQLs, I would encourage you to take this step. And it's been interesting when I've done this with other clients. If you feel like you're smashing your MQL goal and you're getting a lot of pushback from the sales team, go with the sales team on some of those calls. Call those MQLs and see how that process goes. I think you'll be shocked if you've never done that before. It's not great. It's not a great experience when those sales folks are calling an MQL for someone that's downloaded an ebook. Like we've talked about, that person is more than likely not ready to buy and doesn't want to talk to the sales team. That doesn't mean we should always stop doing these things, but it's thinking about where is that person on the journey. And just because that person is an MQL doesn't mean they're ready to talk to sales. We need to think about some other intent and buying signals that we're getting from this person before we start pushing harder for a phone call, sales outreach, things like that.
Totally. I mean, I can attest to that now in my new role at Level. Like, I kind of sit on the fence of marketing and sales, and like, when a lead comes in, we don't really do this anymore, but like at some points, like we had content download leads, and it's like, I can't do anything with this right now. This person does not want to talk to me. Like, I'm going to spend my time on the people that raise their hand and say, hey, Dale, I want a meeting because I'm interested in becoming a client. Like, that is what the sales team is looking for. And if you as a marketing team tell the sales team that that is your goal, you guys are going to be best friends. And there's going to be more collaboration. There's going to be more of a willingness to share that type of information because you guys are all pulling in the same direction. And I think that is a big key that I've seen over the past 5 years or so, whenever it comes to traditional lead gen versus what now most people are trying to focus on as the latest buzzword. But I think it really just means going back to doing good marketing is demand generation. Like, how do we get the right message out there, provide value, and get more people coming to us saying, I want to become a customer? Like, when you put it in that way, like, it's like, duh. But I think the internet kind of messed us up for a little bit there because you were able to tie things so meticulously to like, I got this lead. In a perfect world, it makes so much sense. Like, if I get this many, then it will break down to this many customers. But like, it's just not how it works.
It's not how it works. And, you know, all leads, all MQLs aren't created equal. Dale, you hit on something that's interesting. You know, those folks that are reaching out to use our agency as an example are like, you know, hey, Dale, hey, Level agency team, I'm interested in partnering with you to be a performance marketing partner, website project, whatever that is. Normally, those folks that are raising their hand know about us from some way, right? They listen to our podcast. They've read something on our website. They follow us on LinkedIn and have seen our posts and other things. It's not this cold outreach. But to your point, like, they've seen enough and feel confident enough, like, I want to talk to someone at Level. They've provided me with enough information to this point where I feel like they could be a good performance marketing partner for my business.
Yep. And I think something you hit on there, which is, I think, a direction we can go down this rabbit hole a little bit, is people heard about us on the podcast. They saw us on LinkedIn. I think part of the way that marketers also need to adapt is, how are we measuring and attributing success in this new age? Traditionally, people have looked at last click attribution models, which, to your point, you said earlier, like, it is not a linear journey. There's so many different touch points from marketing that people take from being unaware, just a little bit aware of your company, to becoming a customer. Like, to attribute all of that to search is a mistake. You need to be understanding what are the touch points that are driving that demand, and then understanding what is good at capturing that demand. I'm not saying it's not important, but like, you need to be understanding that full picture. Or what are you going to do? Like, if you see, I got 10 deals last month, 9 of them converted last click through a search ad, and you're only looking at last click attribution, what are you going to do? You're going to say, let's spend more money in search. But if you're not understanding what actually drove them to search for you, you're going to cut those programs, and then your pipeline is going to totally pinch off. And that is something that we've been very clear about, I think, with our clients recently. And I think I just had a good conversation with our EDU team lead, Jeff, about this through the context of higher ed, but I think it very much relates to B2B on like getting a really good awareness measurement strategy in place. I think that is something that B2B marketers really need to get their hands around in this new era of how people are wanting to buy.
So on that, something that we've been recently doing with several of our SaaS clients here at Level is trying to gather some more data on actually how the customer heard about us. Dale, you used the example of, 9 out of the 10 leads came from paid search. The executive team looks at that and it's like, put all our money in paid search. We've seen folks look at metrics and it's like, and we're getting all these, demo requests from email. Like, we need to send more emails. Like, no, that's not the answer. But what we've been doing, and I know it's adding another form or another form field to a form, but we've been asking customers or potential customers, how did you hear about us? And even though they're coming through a paid search lead or they're coming through an email, a lot of times it's, I met you at a conference. I saw you at this conference in San Diego. I was a former customer at this place. I was referred by a colleague. I saw this, post on LinkedIn. I saw your CEO on this podcast. All of these things that are ultimately influencing their decision. And then the marketing team is doing their job because we're there when they're ready to act. We have a well-executed paid search ad. We have a well-executed email because they're already in our system. And now we've gotten them to re-engage. But there's a million other touch points that happen that aren't tracked in HubSpot or whatever your CRM is that has ultimately made that person's decision to go ahead and reach out. So I'm curious here, as we're winding down on Q2, for a lot of our clients, we're going to be aggregating the first year's worth of data to take a look at, all right, we have 200 MQLs from Google search. How did these folks actually say they heard about us? And how does that compare to our last click attribution? Just anecdotally, the data that I've been looking at, over 50, 60% are not saying Google. It's way more than half that are saying, I heard about you some other way. And this is why I'm ultimately reaching out.
Yeah, the answer is almost never the same.
Yeah.
And I'll shout out a study that Refine Labs published recently on this same topic. They showed all of their, I think it was over the course of a year or at least half of a year, all of their closed won deals. 90% of them, last click, were attributed to Google search. And whenever they asked people how they heard about them, guess the percentage of people that said they heard about them through search was? Minimal. 5%. 5%. And like 30% from the podcast, 40% from LinkedIn. Like, that is the kind of data you need to be capturing. And there's a couple of different ways to do it. If you want to, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole here. Go listen to the episode with Jeff that probably 2 episodes before this that talks about awareness measurement. There's some really good advice that he gives that is actionable on how you can do this. But that is a really big eye opener for people whenever you can see the difference between that. It's not that they're not both important. They are, but you need to be thinking about how you use them very differently. Like, think about how you buy. Like, you don't search for something. Maybe in some like e-com cases, like you would search for something and then buy something right there. But like, usually it's, oh, I've seen this brand X number of times. I saw this video. I went to their website twice. Now I'm ready to buy something. So I'm going to search for them and go to their website and do it. Like, it's that simple, I think. Like, think about how people interact with brands on the internet. That's how you need to be thinking about these tactics differently.
And think about, not to use another buzzword, but might be the topic of the podcast. You'll hear the term dark social a lot, and that's been around for a little bit now, but super important when we're talking about the B2B buying journey. And Dale, to your point, how people behave. I just think about me, you, like, I'll see content on LinkedIn. I'll share it with you. I'll share it with colleagues. I'll share it with past colleagues because I think it's interesting for whatever reason. And that's not being tracked in the client CRM. They might see a share, but they don't know if I, copy the link, send it to somebody, and then me and you now have a conversation via LinkedIn about this cool thing that I saw for some potential SaaS company that I think could benefit Level Agency. We have a back and forth via LinkedIn, and you're like, you're right, this is actually really cool. I'm going to reach out, and you might directly go to their website, and then boom, there is a direct to website conversion demo request. But actually, it started with a colleague sending you some content on LinkedIn because they thought it was interesting. So again, making sure that you're present in a lot of different places and providing value that's not gated, that's easily shareable, that is going to encourage action from potential customers.
I think that's the key, like providing value, like quit trying to force the conversion. All you're doing there is not building trust and blowing up vanity metrics for how your marketing team is doing. Like you have to have a little bit of trust in it, but like if you're focusing on providing value, a personalized experience, and letting people do that research on their own without trying to force them to talk to sales, I guarantee you in a few months that you're going to see a big difference in terms of your close one revenue and opportunities, but your leads are going to go down in the beginning. So you need to have a very clear conversation around like, we are making a change. The goal is not to drive as many leads as possible. The goal is to drive revenue. And whenever you make this change, and we've seen it with our clients, right? Like you take the hit at the beginning, but what you start to see, would you rather have 500 leads that download an ebook or 20 that say they want to become customers that convert at a 60% rate, where the ebook might convert at a less than 1%? Like I guarantee you that your executive team, your sales team are all going to agree, we want the customers. And I think that that's kind of the key shift in mindset that needs to happen here.
That shift is super important. And there's always going to be some type of lead measurement, MQL measurement. That's just par for the course. But there are 5 key metrics that I feel like is very important for all B2B marketers to be thinking about. And this is in tandem with their sales team and the entire organization. So first and foremost, win rates. We want to focus on having higher win rates. So how can marketing help influence that? 2, shorter sales cycles. How can we get people in the door quicker and then sales closing the deal faster? 3, more real pipeline. So I say real pipeline because a lot of times if we're looking at MQL metrics, things will start to get added to the pipeline that really have no chance of closing. And I think we've all seen this, anyone that's been a part of a sales organization or a part of sales calls, there are always a few things in there like, why is this in the pipeline? I know this came in from a downloaded case study or something. We've had no actual conversations with these folks. So having some more real pipeline being generated from your marketing. 4th, higher average contract value. As you're providing more value in your marketing, you should be able to start getting more out of potential customers. And then last but not least, accelerating sales velocity. So just pushing those folks through. So I think if you're looking at those things as an organization, you're going to be in a good spot. And not worried about, if your lead volume is down month over month.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like this ties it all together. Those things happen when you're providing value to your customer because they're more informed. That's when those things start to happen because they come to you ready. They've already read all this information. They get it. Like there's just a couple of details that they need to iron out with the sales team to vet. And then there's more confidence in making that purchase because you're not introducing all of these things just through the couple of calls and the opportunities that you have to talk to them on the phone. You've been delivering that over the course of a year, maybe. Like you're providing information and customers are coming to the sales team that get it, which then enables the sales team to perform better. And that's where you start to see those metrics improve.
Couldn't agree more.
Awesome. Cool. Well, this was an awesome conversation, man. I think that we covered a lot and a lot of actionable tips that marketers can take pretty immediately back to their team to talk about how we need to kind of shift the mindset here. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. Until next time, connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube. We're always sharing awesome content on how to make your business grow faster, smarter through performance marketing. And TJ, it was awesome having you back on the podcast, man. We'll have to do it again soon.
Yeah, great to be here. Looking forward to coming back in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Thanks all.